Hello, everyone. This is Ryan Ellis doing your slideshow narration for Saturday, July 1st, 2017, the 72nd week I have shot in Detroit. Uh, on this particular week, I used my 1981 Nikkor 135 millimeter f3.5 lens. Which is a telephoto lens, which means it sees kind of far. The eye sees maybe at 50 millimeters, so you got to imagine this is almost three times as distant of a zoom. You're seeing three times as far as a human eye sees. So um, this particular lens wasn't very favorable towards the usual street portraits, which I do with my 55 1.2 lens. So, without being able to really take effective photos of people, I decided, if I'm looking beyond them, to take photos of buildings. And so, I used the Renaissance Center, this building I paused on right here, to be my muse for the day. I did a study of the Renaissance Center. I should add another piece of context for the day, what I was going through. That was Saturday. The day before, Friday, I was my mom's best friend came into town. Actually, it's the first time she's visited in maybe 10 years. And in December, I will be a certified chef, which is exciting. And it's a joke with a lot of people I know, my best friend, my family. People say, "Oh, what's your famous dish?" It's pretty common question when you're talking to a chef, and I always joke my favorite thing to make is lemonade. I really make I think world class, just killer lemonade. And it's funny, I call her my Aunt Debbie, but when my mom's best friend Debbie came over and visited, I could have made them creme brulee easily. I could have made them panna cotta, no problem at all. But instead, what treat do I make them? Rice Krispie treats, to be exact. And it was the morning, and she stayed the night, and I had three sheets full of Rice Krispie treats, and I was using my chef knife. I cut a little row, a big bar, you might say, of these treats. And instead of getting a metal spatula, I just decided to use the chef knife as a spatula. And they say never cut toward yourself. Never do anything with a knife towards yourself. And I was holding down the casserole dish and moving the knife, and it went under, and it went through the bottom of the Rice Krispie treats, but then it kept going, and it went into my hand about a half inch. So if you zoom in here to my hand, this is the wound. This is exactly 14 days, 2 weeks after it happened. I had to get 3 stitches. It went, like I said, a half inch into my hand. Now, I wasn't sure if my aunt was a squeamish person, and my mom's a nurse. In fact, my great grandma, grandma, Uma, and mother, four, ladies in my family, or 3 generations back, all were nurses, or are nurses. So coming from sort of a medical family, I said, I call over to my mom, like, mother, hello. I was very calm. Like, hey, could you come over here? And my Aunt Debbie, she's like, oh, what's going on? What's going on? I said, no, no, no. And she insisted. I said, all right, it's squeamish. You might not want to see it. She insisted she saw, but she was okay. I just didn't want to scare her with all the blood. I quickly rinsed out the wound and put paper towel over it, and it wasn't too bad at the clinic. But I just removed the stitches myself several days ago. quite a thing. I kind of joke that you have, when someone points at something, they use one finger, and then if they're a flight attendant, they use 2 fingers to point. And if they're a Disney, worker, like a mascot, they use 3 fingers. So like a point, for a person, two finger point for if you're, working on an airplane, 3 finger point if you, work for Disney Corporation, Disney Inc., however it goes by. And I talk with my hands. I gesticulate a lot. And a lot of times in Detroit, the Motor City, there's a joke that everywhere in America, people have the right of way. If you're in the city and you just decide to jaywalk across the street, all the cars will stop for you. But the joke is in Detroit, it's the Motor City. Cars have the right of way in Detroit. Now, legally, people still have the right of way, but if you try to cross the street, a car is just going to keep going. And so there's sort of a dance you have to do. It's a very unique experience, you might say. And so when a car is coming by, I'll usually, wave them on, or like, put my hands up like, hey, I'm going to go. And usually I'm acquainted with doing my whole hand, but because my hand was all wrapped up and motion really kind of set off the pain, I was doing sort of like a Disney or flight attendant, 3-finger, 2-finger sort of point. I thought it was funny, but that's kind of what was going on. Now this flag right here, this Canadian flag, it makes me angry. It really does. It's this giant Canadian flag on the other side of the Detroit River, and I'm angry that there's not a corresponding even bigger American flag. Like what are we doing? Like this is what America's about, Like you do something and then we do it like twice as big, twice as grandly. It's actually, that flag is located directly opposite the Underground Railroad monument, like a straight line if you shoot a laser, because during the Civil War kind of era, and even antebellum era, slaves would cross over the Detroit River because it was a very narrow spot, that particular spot of the river, to go to freedom in Canada, and maybe a blight on Detroit's history. That's also an area where bootleggers would drive their Model Ts full of liquor across the river. In fact, all the fancy car maneuvers that you see in NASCAR come from the bootleggers. In fact, NASCAR was started by former bootleggers. This is kind of a fun fact. Oh, I should stop here. This photo right here of the bricks in the dappled light. I love this photo to death. I'm walking around. I took 1,200 pictures. I took 200 photos an hour, and over the course of 6 hours. 100 photos an hour to me is good, so 200 should be amazing. But I learned from the experience of this day, quantity over quality is not always the best, because you might assume I didn't really take many good pictures today because so many of them are just sort of passable, adequate, barely good pictures, and there are the few gems like this picture in there that really help the whole collection be of a quality that I would go for. Now, NASCAR. Now this is a fun fact. Every single car in America, or just every car they make, has this limiter that was put on the steering wheel, so you can't turn it as much as you might otherwise. And this was put on so that cars can't do what they used to be able to do in the Prohibition era and make these, they're called suicide, or not suicide turns, like 180-degree turns. And just a fun fact, here, I should say I was doing a study of the Renaissance Center. I'm not sure if I mentioned it before. I chose that building as my focus for the day, and I kept taking pictures. I would turn and take a photo of the Renaissance Center, this building right here. Now, in order to not take the same photo again and again, because even though I was walking around it, the building looks very similar from all angles, I would introduce foreground or background elements to contextualize the photos. I've got 10 minutes left of my recording and 4 minutes left of my slideshow. All right, so that's the story of the Renaissance Center. But just to finish off, this is a fun fact. Every single Secret Service agent you cannot work in the Secret Service unless you are trained to drive and do a 180-degree turn. Every single agent is trained to do this in case they happen to be driving the car that's the getaway car for the president or the vice president. And I just find it interesting. This is an old prohibition car maneuver that now the Secret Service uses, and certainly in Detroit that maneuver was used many times as the gin runners were running from the police. Now I stopped here. I took a little video footage of this scene. There is a sprinkler system that was going off in a churchyard, and they set it way too high, the water pressure, because it was shooting off into the sidewalk, like quite unnecessarily. And I thought about, when you're a kid, when you dart across the sidewalk to avoid the sprinkler, you try not to get wet. I thought about doing that, and I was about to, because there's no other way to go. There's the expressway on the other side of the street, or else you have to turn around. It's just sort of a narrow pass. And I stopped and like, well, let me see if I can freeze these water droplets. So I stopped down, and I also raised the shutter speed so it could freeze the motion of the water droplets. And I think it took some mesmerizing photos. By the way, it's called a bootleg turn, which is pretty apropos. The 180-degree turn. I was just given word from a little bird that told me that. Now this is a phenomenon that happens when I'm in Detroit. I am taking pictures, and people decide to become my subject. They volunteer themselves. And this man, he held up his money and did sort of a gangster pose, and I find this happens more on nicer weather days, like in the summertime. Winter and fall, maybe not so much. It seems like everyone's in the city at this time of the year. Now there's Saganaki. I had another try at it. It was so quick I couldn't really get it. I should say that I use all manual focus lenses, and I have a couple autofocus lenses, but even then I use them manually. And to get those quick photos, like of the Saganaki, of the flame, happening, the flame over the Kasari cheese. It's difficult. It's really a discipline, and I could do it the easy way. I could have autofocus lenses, but I like the fight. I like the struggle to try to have it in focus in time. I like that that challenge. I really like to set these difficult goals for myself because it just feels more gratifying when you accomplish what you set yourself out to do. Now, I use a 135 for about 75% of the day, and the last 25% of the day I use my ultra-wide 17mm lens, which is going to show up here. I stopped at a cafe called Avalon and had a pizza. I was kind of getting low blood sugar. I was getting shaky. I try to hydrate a lot during the day, but on this particular day I was getting a little dizzy, and I knew I couldn't keep walking around unless I got some food in me. Glorious, glorious, glorious pizza at Avalon. I like to think, someone after my own heart opened up this cafe. It just opened up maybe a matter of months ago. The music there, the ambiance is wonderful. There's actually a particular busboy or bus man, I guess. He's an older black gentleman, and he is just an inspiration. To watch anybody who's got a real good work ethic is just, you can't beat it. It really, helped inspire me to be better. Now this photo right here is the nighttime corresponding photo of the best shot I took from the last slideshow I did. It's a parking garage, and I actually printed off a copy of it, and I was trying to find who owns this building, who can I give this photo to, and I talked to some businesses nearby, and they said, it's Dan Gilbert's building. Dan Gilbert is, he pretty much owns half of Detroit. He's the richest man in Michigan. He's a billionaire. He owns Quicken Loans and other stuff as well. Well, we're winding down this. We got a minute and a half left, and all right. So I've been signaled I have enough time to finish off this recording. Now I was walking around with my 17mm lens, and I ever since a couple months ago when the leader of Soundgarden, the lead singer of Soundgarden, played a show in Detroit at the Fox Theater, and then later that night committed suicide, it's become a real fire in my belly to take pictures of the marquee at the local venues in Detroit, because you never know what's going to happen, and just to commemorate in case something does happen, you have the photo. And also, that and many other photos I take that may look kind of cheesy in the moment do, I think, age well. It's good to take photos that put you in the time that you find yourself in, as well as the place. Really tell that story, because in 10 years, the lineups on that marquee might be something to sort of chuckle at, and to really have a sentimental moment with. Now, the 17 millimeter lens I'm not too crazy about, because it's so lacking in contrast and lacking saturation. So you really need a stark scene to get the most out of it. Now here, I used the lens to take a time lapse. I thought the time lapse was nice, and it's funny because a large group of people came in and sat down right in front of my camera. There's nothing I can do, I'm not going to shoo them away. I'm not going to be that guy. And I'm talking to a lady, and she's like, am I in your shot? And I said, yes, you are, but it's fine. And I looked at it, and it ended up looking fine. And then right after that, there's a doorman who was in the background the whole time. I noticed he didn't really move around a lot, so I showed him the picture or the time lapse I had taken to show him what I was capable of. And I said, you stand here like a statue. And he did for 10 minutes, and the 10-second thing was overexposed. So then I took a second one. It worked out. A second time lapse, but this is sort of the wrapping up of my day in Detroit. Really, having good glass, having a nice lens is an inspiration in and of itself, and it's difficult to sort of carry on through the day when you don't really have that sort of inspiration from the immediate feedback of the pictures looking very nice. So I decided to go home after only 6 hours, but 1,200 photos. I did take a lot of pictures in that short period of time. This man right here is a homeless man. We go back kind of far. He's I knew him when I used to work in Eastern Market, and I'd always carry his picture with me because I used to give pictures back to the people I took them of, and he would never let me give it back to him, but he would always say, hey, show me that picture again. So I took another picture, and we had a little chat. But that about sums up my day in Detroit. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm very happy that my hand is healed. It was just an extra complication to the day to have, a wound from a knife going into your hand a half inch. Ugh. So just pray for me. I'll pray for you. Hopefully this doesn't become a bother when I get back, start up college in about a month. If you like these videos, consider supporting me on Patreon. There'll be a link at the end for that. And also, of course, if you like these videos, please subscribe. Click on the bell icon next to the subscribe button to get notifications for future videos. Thank you very much for watching. Please come again. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your summer. As you can tell, I'm on a lake right now. I am loving life. So without any further ado, I be well. Au revoir.